The death of death. Christ Jesus has destroyed death and has brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. 2 Timothy 1:10. Of all the fears that grip the hearts of modern men and women, no fear is greater than the fear of death. It is evidence of our technological process that on this Easter season we boast that we have lived through the bloodiest century in human history. Today, a general pushes a button in a somewhat remote office, and a cruise missile finds its target thousands of miles away. Killing is easier now because we have weapons of mass destruction. We can take out whole buildings and whole city blocks, and even a whole city if we want to. We know how to kill, but we don't know how to die. When we face the prospect of our own death, we don't know what to say or what to do. People say that nothing is certain but death and taxes. That is not quite correct. A person may find a way to avoid paying taxes. He may simply not file a return, and at least for a while he pays no tax at all. But you cannot avoid death or put it off. When your time is up, your time is up. This is a subject we'd rather not talk about, especially on such a happy occasion as the Easter season. But if we can't talk about death on Easter, what can we talk about? The very essence of this celebration is that one man has slipped through the grave and come back to tell us about it. Death couldn't hold him, and now he holds the keys of death and hell. Our text makes a wonderful affirmation when it declares that Jesus has destroyed death. Let us pause for a moment to consider those words. The older versions say he has abolished death. There is but one problem with that thought. Death does not appear to have been abolished. If death has been destroyed, someone forgot to tell the undertakers. People still die every day. The cemeteries fill up and new ones open. There is no end of cancer, strokes, heart attacks, sudden accidents, unexplained tragedies, ethnic cleansing, and bombs in the night. Death we have plenty of, but where is the resurrection? How can we say that death has been abolished when death seems to stare us in the face every day? It is natural to think about it because sooner or later, we're all going to die. That much is certain. Let's begin with a basic question. If death has been abolished, why do we still die? I think the most obvious answer is that we die because of sin. Romans 5:12 tells us that death came to the world because of Adam's sin. First there was Adam, then there was sin, then there was death. Sin always leads to death, and as long as sin exists in the world, death will never be far away. How certain is the fact of your death? So certain that there's an entire industry built about the expectation of your death. It's called the life insurance policy. The only reason you buy life insurance is because someday you're going to die. If you lived forever, you never need life insurance. But you buy life insurance precisely because you know the fact of your death. You just don't know the time of your death. You pay the money, but in order to get the insurance benefit, you have to die. If you live and don't die, you've spent the money and you lose. But when you die, someone else gets the money. Life insurance is based on one great theological truth: death reigns. When you die, the coroner will fill out a death certificate for you. There's a space on that certificate that says cause of death. If we understand the Bible, the answer is always the same: sin. Not sickness, not cancer, not an accident, not old age. Those are merely symptoms of the one great cause of death: sin. So in what sense did Christ destroy death? Well, the word translated destroyed in 2 Timothy 1:10 means to render powerless. When Jesus rose from the dead, he broke the power of death forever. And one day, death itself will die. Until then, death has taken on new meaning for the Christian. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Whoever lives and believes in me will never die." John 11:26. Death for the Christian is a temporary interruption, a passing from one stage of life to another. That is what Paul meant when he declared that to live is Christ and to die is gain. Let's pause to consider the bare facts surrounding Good Friday and the Easter season. Did Jesus not die? Yes. Was he not buried? Yes. Did the women not weep? Yes. Where then is our hope? It rests not on Good Friday or in the long hours of that lonely Saturday. Our only hope may be found in what happened early on Easter Sunday morning. If Jesus was nothing more than a man, then we have no hope at all. And our dreams of immortality are just that, idle dreams. But there is good news from the graveyard. There's an empty tomb in the cemetery. It's the tomb of Jesus Christ. He died, they buried him, and by Sunday morning, his tomb was empty. This is God's good news, that death could not hold him, that the grave could not keep him, and that he is Lord of life, the King, immortal and eternal. How did he destroy death? He could only conquer death by entering the realm of death, yanking the keys from the hands of the devil, unlocking the door, and marching out triumphant over the grave. He died like we die. He was really dead, actually dead, completely dead. He wasn't partly or mostly dead. He was as dead as any person could be. And from that state of death, God raised him back to life. He himself walked into the dark valley alone. He faced cold death and looked it into its awful face. He stared down death, broke its power, and walked away victorious. One day, death will die. So what is death like for a believer? 4,000 years ago, Job asked this question: if a man dies, will he live again? That is the greatest of all questions. It is the one great question Resurrection Sunday was meant to answer. Death feels terrible, unreal, unnatural. When we stand over the body of someone we love, we feel helpless, angry, defeated, and afraid. Death is sobering, frightening, terrifying. No wonder the Bible calls it the last enemy. No one has ever lived who hasn't trembled before death. Deep in our hearts, we wonder what will happen when our time comes to cross the great divide. How will it be when we go through the valley of the shadow of death? Will we be afraid? Will our faith stand the test? The Bible tells us that the sting of death is sin. Consider that picture for a moment. How do you take the sting out of a bee? By taking the sting yourself. Then the bee can hurt you no more. Christ took the venom of death. Death stung him and killed him, but death could not keep him dead. He took all the venom of death, so there is none left for his people to fear. Death for us is no longer a curse, but a blessing. The New Testament calls it sleep because when you sleep, you plan to wake up later. People ask, will it be the same body? Yes, but greatly improved, which is good news for us, and for some of us, it's the only hope we have. Our bodies will be immortal and incorruptible. Today we have 5 senses. Then we may have 500. Scientists tell us that the body constantly renews itself as old cells disappear and new ones are formed. They say that every 7 or 8 years we have an entirely new body. If you are 50 years old, you're living on the 7th or 8th version of your own body. Yet you still have the same scars you had when you were young. This illustrates that even though the body changes completely, human personality endures forever. Now, if God can do that on this earth, think what he can do when he has unlimited time to work on you. If God can rebuild us 10 times on this earth, I'm sure he can do it an 11th time. And when he does, he'll fix us up so we'll never have to be rebuilt again. So, if a man dies, will he live again? Yes. Here's the answer to the greatest question, the deepest question, and the final question. All of us will face death someday. But for those who know Jesus, Death holds no fear. We're not afraid of the darkness, for Jesus is the light of the world. We won't stay in the valley of the shadow of death, for Jesus has said he will be our guide. We may die, but we won't stay dead. Jesus has the keys, and one day he's going to come back for us. Are you trusting the man who rose from the dead? Jesus is alive and standing with open arms, inviting you to accept his offer of life eternal. The door to heaven is wide open. I invite you to take a step of faith and allow Jesus to prove to you that he is alive. Each of us has an appointment with death sooner or later, but that is a cause for rejoicing, not for fear, provided we have put our trust in Jesus Christ, who holds the keys of life and death. Here's the final proof that death has been destroyed. When Jesus rose from the dead, he left the door to the tomb wide open. That means we won't have to fight our way out of the grave when he calls us to wake up. He left the door open 2,000 years ago. That is God's guarantee that even though we die, we won't stay dead forever. Resurrection Sunday is coming. Death has been defeated, and someday will be destroyed completely. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. The day is coming when God will wipe away all our tears. Until then, let this thought fill you with hope. There is a light shining from the tomb, a light that leads us from the darkness to the glorious day that shall never end. Maranatha.